objection? Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will report.
Senator from Oklahoma, Mr. Inhofe, proposes an amendment number 3588.
Mr. President, I ask you to consider dispense with reading of the amendment.
Without objection.
Mr. President, President Obama repeatedly promised during the campaign that no one making over $250,000 per year would see their taxes increase. However, the Democrats plan to spend $2.6 trillion in new health care promises at a time when the country can't afford the promises they've already made, and we have a record one-year budget deficit of $1.4 trillion. We hear President Obama always talking about what he inherited from George W. Bush. Well, what he inherited was nothing like what he did. He actually raised the deficit $1.4 trillion in 1 year. That's more than President Bush did in his last 5 years. Now, the health bill, which recently passed the House, an unprecedented expansion of government control and increased taxes on Americans during a real difficult economic time, they not only just stopped the one expensive health care bill, now the Senate is debating a fix-it bill, which increases taxes an additional $50 billion on the American people. Now, reading through the legislation, I'm struck by a myriad of ways this raises taxes on the American citizens, from job-creating small businesses and middle-income families, over $500 billion of new taxes. Now, if you happen to need a medical device, that's what we're talking about right now, you get taxed on the bill. Section 9009 of the past health care bill imposes a new tax on assistive devices, which include items like pacemakers and prosthetics, incubators for premature babies. And the fix-it bill, and I call this the payoff bill because, if you all know, the Speaker of the House had to pay off all these individuals. We understand how that works, and that's what this bill is all about right now. That's why it needs to be amended. This is what we're currently debating. It actually expands to include more medical devices, such as tongue depressors, elastic bandages, most handheld dental instruments, and examination gloves. Now, I'm joining with my Republican colleagues to file an amendment striking the tax on medical devices. Additionally, I have filed amendment number 3588, that's what we're talking about now, that will strike this expansion of taxes on assistive devices for two of the most vulnerable populations, the children and individuals with disabilities. I've previously spoken on the floor about this new tax and how it hurts Americans. Let me remind you of a couple of examples. My son-in-law, Brad Swan, installs pacemakers and defibrillators. One morning a few months ago, and I know this is true because he lives right across the street from us, at 1 o'clock in the morning, he was called to an emergency involving an 8-year-old boy with no heartbeat whatsoever. 1 o'clock in the morning. He was born with a congenital heart disease, was able to have a pacemaker put in that morning, right after he's called, and now has a full, healthy life ahead of him. My older sister, Marilyn, faced a similar situation 9 years ago and is alive and healthy today. Additionally, Dr. Stanley DeFore, a cardiologist in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, explained to me that the cost of a pacemaker, we're talking about $5,000, it's something that lasts 10 years. It pales in comparison to the cost of a stroke or multiple fractures. Now, with this tax, we are making these medical devices more expensive for families, which may prevent others from accessing the device they need in order to enhance or even save their lives. So I don't know, I've never been through anything like this in the 20 years that I've been here. We look at the tax increase on this bill of $569 billion. Now it's going to be more than that. Additionally, I was talking this morning in Chickasha, Oklahoma, on a radio show, and the person interviewing me was talking about his 94-year-old mother and how she depends on Medicare. And I explained there's $523 billion in Medicare cuts in this bill. So, the White House was celebrating. You could hear the champagne corks popping all night long. They successfully increased taxes by $569 billion. So I encourage people to vote for this amendment to at least relieve part of the problems that's out there. It's amendment number 3588. I'll yield the floor.
Senator from Utah is recognized.
I ask that the pending amendment be set aside, and I have an amendment.